I call to order this special meeting of the Adrian City Commission for August 20th, 2026. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence and the pledge of allegiance. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Zeig,
Present.
Commissioner Banky, Commissioner Moore,
Present.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Present.
Commissioner Cheshire.
Present.
All commission members present with the exception of Commissioner Banky.
May I get a motion to excuse Commissioner Banky?
So move.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Zeig,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Cheshire.
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Motion carried.
May I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Zeit with a second from Commissioner Roberts. Roll call,
I have a
please.
question on the agenda, point of order. Since it's on the agenda, we might vote for the acting city manager. Are we going to pursue a criminal background check, drug tests, or those type of background criminals checks?
Is that something that if we have in the contract, like, that would be something that would be in the contract that has to happen in order to be hired?
You
Correct.
You can make it part.
We can make it part of that if a decision is made tonight. If a decision's not made tonight and we want to move forward with some of them for a second round or whatever, we could do that probably before the next round or, and figure it out from there.
As I recall, when we did the last time interviewing the candidates from Yo-Yo, they were already background checked for us, correct?
Yes, because it was a search group, yes. I have a motion from Commissioner Zeig with a second from Commissioner Roberts for the agenda. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Zeig,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz.
Yes.
Commissioner Cheshire.
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Now is time for public comment regarding items on the agenda. We'll start inside the city chambers first. When we have exhausted all public comment inside the chambers, we will then open it up to the Zoom participants. Just for the record, you need to state your first and last name and your place of residence. We'll begin now.
Hello, Nicole Hernandez, City of Adrian. I am just going to push that I think we should choose someone other than a commissioner. Thank you.
At this time, we will open it up to the Zoom participants regarding items on the agenda. Hearing no public comment, we will now begin.
Can you
our
hear
acting
me?
city
Wait.
Oh, okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Kim Nebel, Adrian, Michigan. I just recently found out about a city that received a $500,000 grant for outdoor recreation from the Michigan DNR. So I just
That's
want
something you could talk about at the end, because this is about.
it is on
Okay.
the agenda. I just wanted to stress how somebody who can write grants well is a real plus if there's anybody applying that's like that. Because there's lots of grants out there. That's all.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted
That's
to make
okay.
sure. Thank you. All right, at this time, we will begin with our acting city administrator interviews. So we will begin with Ted, and I don't want to try to pronounce your last name and say it wrong. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'd get that all the time. It's Andrzejewski. Andrzejewski. It's not like it looks. It's the Polish way to pronounce it. So thank you, everyone, Mayor, everyone here for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. And if we, as we do our questions, we'll introduce who we are because we're going to go through with the questions and we'll just say who we are on this, on the dais thing.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Chip Moore. I just got elected back in November of last year, so I'm new to this body. I hope you have been reviewing previous meetings or what we're facing. I was not here at the last meeting, but I guess we have a 500,000 shortfall for last year from the budget because of the tax revenue from the marijuana, and it's going to get worse this year because of the 24% increase starting January. And the current budget, we had a property that sold for 75,000, and we had it budgeted for 500,000 for the sale of property. So we're looking at potentially 700 to $800 million shortfall for this current policy term here. And my question is, in your first 90 days, what specific steps would you take with the finance department to confirm that number, fund by fund, and bring the commission a ranked list of expenditures cut, revenue options, and reserve use with services impact and timeline?
All right. Well, first, let me just give 1 minute here. In my past background, when I was mayor of Eastlake, Ohio, we were actually under fiscal emergency because the previous mayor got us $1.5 million in debt. So I'm familiar with deficits. I'm familiar with ways that can be done to cut the deficit. We actually had to have a meeting with the state every quarter to go over our finances so they would approve it and get it. So I just want to let you know I have a little background in the deficits area. To answer your question, I think the best thing to do would be to sit down with the treasurer and the assessor and go over the budget department by department, even line by line. So you could take a look and see, is there areas where we can reduce a little bit? Is there areas that we can cut some costs on? And knowing it is a difficult situation for the city and the employees, I know that. It'll be tough to present some of the cuts if they have to be done. But I would sit down with the people, the department heads, go over the budget line by line, look for opportunities to cut that deficit down. Can also look for opportunities if there are to increase the revenue, because the two things you can do are either increase revenue, get some more money into the city, or reduce the deficit.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Matt Schwartz,
Hi, Matt. My oldest son is named Matt.
and I hope he's as good. No, I'm just kidding. I would like you to describe your local government leadership experience, including the size and type of organizations you had led and the number of employees you have supervised.
Okay, we'll start with the government. First job I had actually in government was with the city of Eastlake. I sat right there as a council person for about a year. And then when the mayor who got us into financial trouble resigned, I decided to run for mayor because I knew I had the financial background in banking to take a look at the budget and figure it out. So I became mayor of Eastlake for 2 terms. I got elected the first time to fill in a year and a half. Then I was reelected twice to 2 4-year terms. In that time frame, within 2 years, we had done enough to get the city out of fiscal emergency. We got out of state control. We actually were given a letter by a recommendation from the state auditor on the good job we did on reducing the deficit and getting rid of the debt. So I was mayor of Eastlake for 10 years. We had a budget of, I believe, $22 million and had over 100 employees. I looked at all the departments here, and we had the same departments except the assessor. In Ohio, you don't have an assessor. The county does all of the taxes and real estate and adjustments and things like that. And we had about 100 employees. Every department you had here, including police, fire, finance, service, we call the service department. We also had a sewer plant that we ran with the other city next to us. So I was mayor of Eastlake for 10 years. And as some of you may or may not have experienced yet, it comes to an end. I wanted to run one more term, but unfortunately I did not win. No excuses, just people thought Ted's going to win. We don't have to vote. I had so many people come afterwards and say, we're sorry we didn't go out and vote. So then I decided I'm a good manager in local government, and I looked at the city manager opportunities. First position I had was in Michigan, up in the Upper Peninsula, in a city called Menominee, if some of you are familiar with it. I served there for 2.5 years. Very nice community. It had 10,000 people. Oh, by the way, Eastlake had about the same population as here. We had 19,000 as far as population. Menominee was around 10,000. It was right next to a city called Marinette, who also had about 10,000 people. So I served as city manager for about 2.5 years. Very nice rural community. We dealt with everything that a city could deal with, including having to watch the budget, watch how much money is coming in and going out. So I did that for 2.5 years. Very nice, very cold. The first week I was there, the temperature didn't get above -10 degrees. Not chill factor, but -10 degrees. And there was even times where we had to have the residents drip their water so that the pipes wouldn't freeze. So I had an opportunity then to serve as city manager in Canandaigua, New York. Now, the reason I went there is because I grew up in the Buffalo area, and Canandaigua is in western New York. And I served there I think that was about 2 years too, and moved on to a nice little village in Ohio named Cadiz, Ohio. It's about 2 hours south of Cleveland from where I lived. My kids were all grown, they're all on their own. So my wife stayed and worked in Eastlake, Ohio, and I would go down to Cadiz and stay Monday through Friday, sometimes the weekends if they needed me, and then go back up to Eastlake for the weekend. Cadiz was a very small town. It had about 3,500 people, which means as city manager, I did everything. I was actually the city manager and zoning person, the person who went out, inspected properties, had to tell the people to clean up their yards, clean up their trash, things like that, approve, recommend building permits, issue building permits. So being in a small town, I did everything. And it was fun. It was fun, enjoyable, and I learned a lot. After Cadiz, then I retired. I went back to Eastlake, Ohio, and started playing golf, liked it. And then I got a call from Cascade, Michigan, from the same thing, Michigan Municipal League. I'm on an approved list for interim managers. I wanted to continue to be a manager, government manager, but I did not really want to do it full time anymore. So this worked out perfect. And Michigan Municipal League put me on a list, and Cascade called. I went and interviewed with them. Cascade is right near Grand Rapids. I'm sure all of you know where it is. Very, very nice community. No budget problems whatsoever. They had about 12,000 people. Money was everywhere. Money was everywhere. I helped oversee the finished building of a new fire station. We had money for parks. We had money for not snowplows, police cars. Everything we needed was there. They really did good. Now we also made sure we set aside money for the future and had a fund for future development, future high ticket items to purchase. And then after Cascade, I went back to Ohio, and that's where I am.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Aaron Cheshire.
Hello.
My question is, when entering a new municipality, how do you quickly assess staffing needs, operations, and major priorities? And what information would you want to see first?
Well, I did some research as best as I could on the internet, and I drove around the city. I got here about an hour and a half ago, looked at the downtown redevelopment, read about all the money coming in for downtown redevelopment and other projects. Coming in, I also would just wanted to point out to you that not being from Adrian, I can take a fresh look at things. I don't have any prejudices, any preset ideas, almost like coming in as a acting city administrator and slash consultant. You can look at things and maybe make some recommendations where we could improve, where things could be done better. I also, Aaron, like to, when I first come into a city, and I did this in Cascade, it really worked well, is I don't know if you have weekly or bi-weekly meetings with all the department heads, but that's what I like to do. Is get all the department heads in the meeting room, and we just have a general discussion of what's going on in the city, who's doing what other departments may need to help, and I would gather the information I need for the various projects that are going on from the department heads. And when meetings are over, then I could meet individually with the departments and learn a little bit more about each department and the people in the city and the people in the city hall. So to answer your question, I like weekly, bi-weekly meetings. I have an open door policy, and the employees would quickly find that out. I don't hide, I'm there. If you have a problem, if you have something you need to discuss with me, come on in, we'll discuss it, we'll figure out what to do together. So open door policy, weekly meetings, that's how I would learn more about Adrian.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mayor Heath. I'm going to ask you a different question than I was supposed to ask you because somebody asked one very similar to mine. You are stepping into a temporary role with a limited 6 to 9 month time frame. What do you believe the role of acting administrator should be? Specifically, what would you prioritize and what would you deliberately leave for the permanent administrator?
Okay, good question. Yeah, I'll give you an analogy because I like sports, and I've always played sports and relate to sports. I would be like a backup quarterback. Backup quarterback comes into a team when the first string quarterback is hurt, and you fill in, you win some games, you try to make it different, and you set it up for the next quarterback who comes in so that when the quarterback comes in or gets off the injury list, they can step right in and take the team on. So knowing that there's some budget deficits here, knowing that there's some big projects going on, my priority would be to do the financials, get them in order as best as I can, continue to move all the projects forward, keep them moving, and set the table for the permanent manager. Temporary position for me is perfect because I am retired. I like to go in somewhere, do a good job, leave on good, leave this city saying, hey, that Ted did a pretty good job there. We liked him being acting manager, and then set it up for the next person to come in. My background, too, you should know, is in finances. That was one of the reasons I was elected mayor of Eastlake, because people saw I worked as a bank manager for 10 years for Key Bank. There's some key banks around here. And worked as a branch manager, so I oversaw budgets for the bank and had to watch the money, millions of dollars. So my background is finances. I know finances. I know how to read financial statements. And so priorities, continue the projects, and get the money situation under control.
Thank you.
Hi, Ted. Thanks
Hi.
for coming this
Mhm.
evening. I'm Mary, and my question is, how do you establish an effective working relationship with a city commission that may have different priorities, personalities, and expectations? How do you handle situations when your individual commissioners come to you with conflicting direction?
Well, again, the open door policy will help. I have worked in cities where the commissions have differing opinion. Let me put it that way. They have differing opinions on things. So I will listen to each commissioner, get their thoughts on what's going on and what they want to do, and most assuredly tell them whatever they talk to me about is confidential. You can talk to me about anything. I'm not going to go blabbing it around the city or to the other commissioners. So sit down with the commissioners, get their thoughts on the particular issue, see if talking with the other commissioner who might have, or commissioners who might have differing opinions, if we can come to some sort of compromise or meet in the middle or whatever the case may be. So I think communication, Commissioner Roberts, is important. They need to trust me that they can talk to me about anything and that it's not going to go anywhere. And with my background, I think I've seen just about everything in local government that you can see. I don't think I would get any surprises here or find any surprises. So communication, open door policy, see if we can get together, compromise, find the answer to the divide. Okay?
Okay. I do have just one quick clarification I want to ask. So when you were mayor of East Lake, that's a strong mayor city?
Yes.
Okay.
We had strong mayor, 7 council people.
Okay.
But the council controlled the budget and the money, and then the mayor sets the direction and hopefully works with council to get the agenda moving.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, it was. I'm thinking, yeah, because the mayor in East Lake is like a city manager.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, it was not-
looked like that on your resume. I just wanted to be sure.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Ted. Thank
Hi.
you for coming today.
Mhm.
I'm Tiffany Zeich. So my question is, as an acting administrator often inherits a staff who may be uncertain about the future, how would you build trust, maintain morale, and establish accountability through leadership in a short amount of time?
I think I faced that in Cascade. They had gone through 1 or 2 city managers, and there was a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? The employees were not happy. Okay. So what we did is we started the weekly meetings. And after I did the first 2 weekly meetings, the department heads came up and said, boy, we like this. We like this way of doing things where we all get together and talk about things. I also told them that I had the open door policy. Come and talk to me about anything. If you have a problem, I'll help you solve it. We'll find a solution to it. And I was there 4 months. And when I left, it was a much different environment than when I got there. People were working together. They were happy again because they saw stability. There were a few department heads who thought they were going to lose their jobs. And after I talked to them and assured them that no one's going to take your job away, I don't know where that came from, but no one's going to take your job away, it became a much better environment to work in. So I think we're back to the weekly, bi-weekly meetings, whatever's appropriate. I think we're back to the communication and open door policy. And I need to build that trust right away with the employees that they can talk to me about anything and we'll figure out what's going on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ted, how do you manage more hands-on or by setting goals and holding department heads accountable? Give me an example from a city or a similar organization.
Both, I'd say. I both like to do a little bit of hands-on, but more importantly, I would like the department heads to know there is someone in charge. There is someone who's watching things, not as a micromanager, but as someone overseeing and knowing what's going on so that they're accountable for their actions. As far as an example, we had a building commissioner, and I won't say what city, but in one of the cities I was in, who went way overboard with contractors. I mean, it was to a point where the contractors did not want to work with the city because he was so nitpicky. I remember one example where it was a bathroom remodel, and the toilet was 6 inches, 8 inches from the wall, should have been 12. Okay, 12 inches. I said, come on, let's work with this guy. Let's work with the contractor and the resident. Let's get that bathroom remodeling approved. And he was more of a I'm the building department commissioner. You will do what I say. So over time, I worked with him, got him to calm down a little bit, work with the contractors. Let's get the jobs approved, not disobeying the code, but getting the job done. So if it's 12 inches and they're 8 inches, that's okay. I mean, it's not going to make a big difference. I do remember a building in that same city where we had to come down, and I sided with the building commissioner because it was a bank, and instead of screwing the drywall in to the offices, they used nails, which was against the code. So we did make him redo it. Okay. So, but eventually he came around. He saw that working with people and being a little nicer, especially with the contractors and the residents, will get you more than being the dictator. I'm the building department manager.
Matt again.
Hey, yeah,
Reader.
my first son.
Again, thank you for coming, and I appreciate this opportunity to meet you. Tell us about a difficult or controversial or high-profile issue you inherited as manager, and how did you, got to flip the page, assess the situation, communicate with elected officials and the public, and move the issue toward resolution.
Would you read the first sentence again?
I'll get closer. Tell us about a difficult, controversial, or high-profile issue you inherited as a manager. How did you assess the situation, communicate with elected officials and the public, and move the issue toward resolution?
Well, the one comes right up to mind here is a situation where in that particular city, when work had to be done at City Hall or any city buildings, they would allow employees to do the work, sometimes without a bid. And unfortunately, we had a situation where one of the employees was billing the city for work that was not done. And it was brought to my attention by the finance director, who said, Ted, you need to take a look at this. I don't think this particular person did the work. It was electrical work. It was installed. I'll give you the exact example. We had a library where we were replacing all of the exit lights. Okay. This library, probably the same size as this city. And he said he replaced over 100 exit signs. How could you replace 100 exit signs in a library? So we went around and counted them. And that led us to another situation where he was supposed to replace the Wi-Fi in the buildings. And when we went in, I took a fireman with me to go into the buildings. And when we went into buildings and checked the Wi-Fi, we found that the Wi-Fi was actually contracted out to another electrician. And when we got to the electrical company, we found out, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like, okay, the job, we charged him $1,500. He billed the city for $5,000 for each replacement. So we got all our facts together. We got all the bills together, and the department head was with me, and we confronted the individual, and he did admit his wrongdoing. And at that point, we had no choice but to ask him to resign.
Okay. What are some strategies you have used to build consensus among elected officials and city staff? What process do you find most successful when important decisions need to be made?
Golf. No, I'd say that in jest. I actually, I am a pretty good golfer. I like to play golf. So sometimes I have in other cities on weekends played with the council people, and we talk about everything. So to answer your question, I think a lot of this involves communication, listening to what the commissioner or the person has to say, listening to their point of view without having a foregone conclusion, and then talking with everybody involved and listening to all the different sides. I'm amazed sometimes where I think, well, this person's right. I listen to the other side and say, yeah, you know what? They have a point too. And then again, you try to get them together and try to talk about it and compromise. A lot of the difficulties in local government with residents, with department heads, with employees revolve around communication. And I believe the more communication, the more open you can be, even if it's bad news. I mean, you be open with people. So,
Thank you.
What role do you believe an acting city administrator should play in communicating with residents, businesses, the media, and community organizations? How would you handle a situation where the public is dissatisfied with the decision made by the city?
Well, I'll answer the first part first. As acting city manager, in my mind, city administrator, in my mind, is no different than being the permanent manager. While I'm here, for whatever time I'm here, if you choose to accept me, I would be just like the city administrator. So the public can call me. I'll look at their problems, their questions. Most of the time, it's things to do with zoning or building or whatever, and talk to them and try to find a resolution to the problem or the request that they have. I don't want to call it problem. A lot of times it's requests. My neighbor has 12 inches of grass. When are you going to get that cut? My neighbor or someone down the street has a backyard full of debris. When are we going to clean it up? So those are easy to do because you can just have the building department go out and clean it up or send a citation out to cut the grass if it's really high. So to the residents, I hope they would see me as not only the acting administrator, but the person in charge at the time when they call. The second part of your question, again, could you repeat? The very end.
Yes. How would you handle a situation where the public is dissatisfied with the decision made by the city?
Oh, that's a good one. The way I've handled those things in the past is to let them air it out. Most of the time, residents want to talk to somebody and let them know about their frustration with the decision. And since the decision, I assume, has already been made, I have to tell them at the end of our discussion that I appreciate your comments. I understand what you're saying. I'm listening to you. However, the commission has decided to go this way, and this is the way we're going to go. Most of the time, what they do, they just want to air it out. They want to talk to somebody, and they want to show their frustration or their disappointment with the decision. So let them talk, hear them out, and then go on from there. That usually works. Mhm.
Thank you. Will, how much time do we have? 3 minutes.
I'm going to skip my question. Tiffany, if you would like to ask the last question.
Do you have any questions for us?
When do you anticipate, well, I heard you might make a decision tonight. When do you anticipate the person starting? Because I'm retired, I'm available whenever you would need me. I have no other job to leave. I have no other things to take care of. And my wife's working full time.
Tonight.
Yeah, good. Well,
No, as soon as possible.
yeah, I mean, if you said, I want you here Monday, I'll be here Monday morning. I'm ready to go. My wife works full time. She doesn't want to stop. So, I mean, that's her choice and I respect it. So bring the money home. So, and that's my question. And my question is basically, when would you want somebody? And the mayor has already said it would be between 6 and 9 months. That would be the other thing I would tell you. I'd stay as long as you want me. I don't have a time frame to say I'm only here 3 months and I'm out of here. I will stay until you get a permanent city administrator. I will never leave you hanging there. Okay.
Thank you so much. And one more time, how do you say your last name again?
It's Andrzejewski. You kind of scrunch the middle together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
We have 5 minutes between interviews, so if anybody needs to use the restroom or get a drink or anything, we'll have a 5-minute break in between.
I'm sorry, what did I do? Oh, actually, Michelle, Jay is going to be on Zoom, correct? And do you know if his face will appear on one or the other?
Yeah, so I'll change the view so that you'll just see him speaking
Okay,
and it'll be on both of these screens.
okay, thank you.
He's on Zoom. That's what I'm hearing.
They say the next student for not
Well, that's. But the camera. It's a happy picture of like that.
How's Kelly doing? Yeah. I'm green out. Yeah, we did.
That's not next week.
Fall. Oh, you should have told us that. Yeah.
Suburban.
I used to go out there. It's a big ride.
We use.
We won't wear the.
Our son's truck. Move, so.
Easy, but I'm happy we're not going to like, they don't know. No. You know what I mean?
Virginia.
Did you used to go to Rogers? Oh, well, that. Uh-huh. From where? Oh, okay. Oh, see, that's all. Oh, okay. You kept it in the family, right?
She really, he's back in Virginia now. Interviewed with a couple of others. He just wants to go to clean slate, so I did something. They have a rental house here that's finally sold. The house that they're selling also.
You know, Tim and I
Yeah,
married
it's-
81. He was a beater and I cried. And I said, honestly, it was like something that will never even move to us or town than this.
Never done anything on Facebook except say like or nice job. Yeah.
You know, so Randy really.
So I.
You know.
So, I'm not picking, must restrict somebody up on the microphone.
East Coast. And then last college. My folks moved right before I started. To Florida. So.
I know.
All right, we will begin with our second interview with Bob Benke. Welcome.
Thank you. I do have a handout.
Okay. Commissioner Moore, you can begin. Thanks.
Thank you for being here, Bob. We are operating under an assumption of 700 to 800,000 shortfall for this current budget. I know we were short 500,000, but on the last meeting they were announced based on the lower marijuana revenue, and it looks like the marijuana revenue is going to be even shorter this current fiscal year, which could be greater than what the number I have. In your first 90 days, what specific steps would you take with the finance department to confirm that number, fund by fund, and bring the commission a ranked list of expenditure cuts, revenue options, and reserve use with service impact and timetable?
Thank you. I'd like to refer inside the folder on the right side in the back. I created a 120-day plan. And within that, on the second page there is my 120-day overview of how I see to restore fiscal discipline to our budget and to identify and do just the things that you spoke about. When I came in as superintendent of Adrian Public Schools, we were within a structural deficit. So that meant that we were operating with more expenses and then what was coming in terms of revenue. So it's really important and critical, especially when you look at an organization where most of the expenditures are related to personnel, in terms of how we address in terms of where our essential needs are and our essential services that we provide to residents. And then from that, just as you said, identifying where the areas of concern are with shortfall. Are there opportunities to increase revenues? We have opportunities to make some minor increases to help stave that off. But then also the piece of identifying that to the commission, being transparent with that to the commission and the public, and then talking about the choices that need to be made to correct that budget shortfall.
Thank you.
Thank you for interviewing, Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Schwartz or Bob? Or Commissioner, not Schwartz, thank you, but Bob. You know who I mean. Okay.
So
If you could describe your local government leadership experience, including the size and type of organizations you have led and the number of employees you have supervised.
So I do come with experience in executive leadership in terms of local government or elected government in terms of a school district. And in that role, I oversaw roughly 500 employees with a $38 million budget with funds that came from state, local, and federal, in addition to various grant requirements. During that time, I oversaw a $30 million bond initiative that required extensive construction management and knowledge. During that time, we also reduced the number of buildings that were in place, and that helped to reduce the costs that were in place for the school district. You know, as you know, taking Draeger offline saved in terms of not having to heat, light, maintain and repair McKinley and Garfield. And then we were able to decommission those buildings and then put them back on the public tax rolls from there. Outside of that, I have experience at the national level. I worked for a congressman as an intern many years ago. I worked as in law enforcement, 3 different police departments in 911 response, and then also served in the Lenawee County Planning and Zoning Board as well.
Mr. Banky, when entering a new municipality, how do you quickly assess staffing needs, operations, and major priorities, and what information would you want to see first?
Really, it comes down to when I first arrived in Adrian and Adrian Public Schools, I conducted a listen and learn tour. And that was going to every building, talking with principals and department heads, talking with all of the school board members. So I think it's essential within that first week of having one-on-ones with all the members of the commission to get your main concerns in place, and then taking that back and processing that with department heads. We got a great number of department heads who are working hard and leading their departments. And how can we take the success that's in there, provide the stability that's needed for this transition, so that we can leave Adrian with in a much better place than we found it in a short term, so that we can attract an outstanding permanent administrator to come in the future.
Thank you.
Please just, sorry about that. You're stepping into a temporary role with a limited 6 to 9 month time frame. What do you believe the role of acting administrator should be? Specifically, what would you prioritize and what would you deliberately leave for the permanent administrator?
Yeah, so I will refer back to kind of the priorities that I had included in that plan. But what I would say in terms of the important piece related to the organizational pieces of the city. Taking that analysis and then really looking at what's working well and what needs to change. We all received an email from Mrs. Smith recently, and within that report, it's interesting because there was an analysis that was done by an outside company, and that outside company said, we're not going to work with you as a city until you make these changes. So there's some structural changes that they specifically said that we need to make. So we need to, make adjustments to our processes, examine those processes, and then make sure that that's communicated back to what are the essential needs and expectations of the commission to serve our public, and align those so that as people look at this role, that they see a city that they're interested in coming to work to. I would also push out the longer kind of timeline that I have here. And my analysis of this is that 6 to 9 months is on the short end, because we need to fix a lot of things. And when we look at the parks plan that was just approved, that the deadline is February. If you're doing an administrator search at the same time, we don't even have that necessarily rolled out at the same time you're picking an administrator search firm. And when we begin to say to our potential candidates, how have we changed? How is Adrian different now? If you're a comfortable city administrator sitting in another municipality, other than the clock just moved forward 5 months and they're starting another search. So systematic, meaningful change needs to not only need to take place, but it needs to be observed from those people from the outside who are interested in applying. And then, going through that timeline that I explained in the second half there as to how the commission is going to, again, select a search firm, identify the traits and qualities that they're interested in for their next outstanding administrator.
Thank you.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
How do you establish an effective working relationship with the city commission that may have different differing priorities, personalities, and expectations. How would you handle a situation in which individual commissioners give you conflicting direction?
Yeah. So, you know, moving from there to there is a big step. And my success as a professional has always been sitting in that middle seat when it comes to the role of superintendent and the executive of an organization that's led by a publicly elected body. As superintendent, I did not have a choice to choose my 7 bosses, and in this case here, I serve at the will of the commission, and making that jump is something that's critical and requires a shift in my part, going back to my role as an administrative professional instead of an elected person there. So that really is a big shift in terms of that listen and learn component. When I was superintendent, I had 3 votes that were not 7-0. And I can tell you what those 3 votes are because they were very meaningful to me when they did not take place. And I don't anticipate that my every vote is going to be 7-0, but the relationship, the communication that's going back and forth between me and the members of the commission, and understanding what your perspectives are that when I present you with a presentation or a proposal, I'm going to give you the best presentation. We're not just going to copy a proposal from Ann Arbor or from a different municipality and say, oh, this is what they used in that city and this is what we're going to vote on. We're going to take those multiple cities examples. We're going to work them through. I'm going to know where the differences are from one commissioner to the next, work with the department heads, reflect back on what the best essential needs of the city are, and then give you the best proposal from there to work from. And then as you guys continue to work through the legislative process, able to make those adjustments as to what the legal body enacts.
Hi, Bob. Thanks
Hi.
for interviewing today. My question, as an acting administrator often inherits a staff who may be uncertain about the future, how would you build trust, maintain morale, and establish accountability through leadership in a short amount of time?
Yeah, so the advantage of knowing department heads and having worked within the city allows me to come in and assess much more quickly than someone from the outside with limited experience from that. Trust and building that understanding from the administrative role compared to the commissioner role is essential, because that is a major shift that's in place. And that accountability in terms of what are the systems in place, what are our expectations, what are the requirements of those jobs, comes down to management from department heads, comes down to my management of department heads. It's not my role to come in and, be driving out with, the garbage collector and telling them how to, load things more effectively. But it's my role to share the concerns that come from either the commission or from the public with the department heads, and then from that create a plan so that we can improve efficiency and hold staff accountable, but at the same time, celebrate the successes of our staff and our departments as well. And we see that on a everyday basis. Just yesterday, the fire department's training out in Blissfield was pretty remarkable with the train derailment scenario, and they deserve a good pat on the back as well too.
Do you manage more hands-on or by setting goals and holding department heads accountable? Give me an example from a city or a similar organization.
Yeah, so I would say yes, because both of those come into play in terms of setting goals and having lofty goals. I'll say one of the last completed strategic plans that we had at the school district that I oversaw was more specifically narrowed in. It was called the game plan that was more specific to athletics. And then from that, we created a need for a recreation department. We created a need for various facility improvements throughout the district. So those were overseen by department heads and people that were specifically assigned to that. But then we would have weekly or monthly meetings to kind of update in terms of what the progress was needed in there. And then, was there support that was needed in terms of financial resources, human resources in place with that, and then making sure that the work that was taking place was going back to that original strategic planning group, going back to the school board, and then most importantly, communicated out to the public so that they were aware of that as well.
Thank you.
This is a multi-part question.
Okay.
Tell us about a difficult, controversial, or high-profile issue you inherited as a manager. How did you assess the situation, communicate with elected officials and the public, and move the issue toward resolution?
So, when people say, how can you handle that? This is stressful. My response is I was the superintendent during COVID. So I inherited the organization. I was the leader of the organization during COVID. And obviously one day we're working with 3,000 students in the building, and then we get the announcement that we're now shut down. So from that, communication was key, and over communicating was key. I can remember sending communications out to the public, and during that time, I was literally putting the time at the end of the email and the communication that was going out to the public because, 2-3 hours later, things were changing. So we worked with not only the health department, we worked with our local superintendents as a county group. And then we also worked with the state elected officials. We were one of the few counties and school districts that opened up that next year in a hybrid model, and we were able to pull that off very successfully. And at that time, we were also using that as a way to provide for people who were concerned on both sides, because some people, wanted to stay home and didn't want to come out of their house to send their kids to school, and others were very comfortable with sending their kids to school. And we were responsive enough that we could meet both sides of the public's wants and needs there and communicate those choices out to them as well.
What are some strategies that you have used to build consensus among elected officials and city staff? And what process do you find most successful when important decisions need to be made?
Yeah, so conversation is most important, and really understanding how members of that elected body work best. So I see Jenny back here. Her husband was my school board president, and I knew that Jed worked very well by texts and by short phone calls. Terry Sheehan, who had the major business mind behind us, he was a short conversation on the phone and to talk him through what the issue was at hand. So moving through that process, it's making sure that I know how you best communicate. And when I'm sitting in that chair and moving around, I'm weighing all those different options from the various places. It's not my role to count to 7 as to, I'm just trying to get this across the finish line of, I got 4 votes, not to count to 4, I mean. It's really, how do you build consensus and work for, is there a better option out there that's beyond 4 that incorporates the concerns of all the commissioners to reflect the needs of our 20,000 residents?
Thank you.
What role do you believe an acting city administrator should play in communicating with residents, businesses, the media, and community organizations? How would you handle a situation where the public is dissatisfied with the decision made by the city?
Yeah, so I think, the role that I'm going to play is that I'm already firmly entrenched in this community. I can, go back. I saw Terry Foy as I was walking in. He's like, "Did you get that job? And are you going to have commissioner conversations next week?" And, my response was, if they so choose, then we can talk about city administrator conversations. I think it's important to be accessible to the public, even in an interim role, so that you're approachable, so that they have a conduit between their concern and what's happening at City Hall, so that that can be addressed, and making sure that you're visible, you're involved, and a part of the community, so that they can see you, not just someone that shows up for a meeting for a short period of time and they see him on TV.
Thank you.
What would success look like to you at the conclusion of the acting assignment?
Yeah, so I would say, success really is a great thing, because this is a transition role. When I worked in Addison a couple years ago, it was also a very short transition role, and there was an analysis there to what can I do to help in regards to culture and climate. And then I also worked with them to rework their high school schedule. And as a result of working their high school schedule, we reduced a burden on the budget. So that became a budget savings in terms of the next year. They didn't need to hire as many staff. And then we also increased the amount of instructional time that was taking place for certain classes. So I see success as, at the end of my time here, and even halfway between, or 2/3 between, is the fact that we feel as a city, you feel as a commission, that you have a product to market, to go out to those current city administrators that are out there, and people who want to be a city administrator, and they look at Adrian and they see that there was transformative change that took place. And that change didn't take place from me alone. It took place from us. And when I say us, that's the commission, that's me, it's department heads, and they look at Adrian as a place that they want to be and they want to work. And then that success is having someone hired at the end of that term.
What questions do you have for us?
So my question relates more to how do you see yourself helping me transition into the role of administrator?
You mentioned it earlier in your conversation that you're moving from one of us to someone who's working for us. And by us, I mean the citizens and the commission. And so that process is going to take a big change, a shift in your leadership and what you're doing and what's happening. And you've seen commission and the fracture that's going on here. How do you plan on making that transition and building trust within the commission again, and communication with the commission? That you don't have to answer it. That's something that I'm concerned about.
That's it.
What was your question again?
How do you
Let Commissioner Cheshire ask, because I was going to ask.
How do you see yourself helping me transition from the role of commissioner into the role of acting city administrator if chosen?
Yeah, I would, if, it's a good question, because if chosen, I would challenge the commission to remain open to the two-way conversations and whatnot you're speaking of. Having open communication is vital with the administrator, and I think that just would be a barrier that could be broken. That's what I would say, based on myself.
I would say, one thing that I would want, if given the role that I would want to see continue is that you do have a really great rapport with the public and very approachable, and a lot of people do come and talk to you, and I would just want to see that continue. I wouldn't want to see that change. I would want to see that continue because, we've had some that don't have the open door policy in the past, and we know how that is. That's just very hard for the public because you are the person, if chosen, the city administrator is the person that the public is coming to a lot during the day or with emails or with questions, and keeping that accessibility where it's at.
Mhm. Thank you.
Do you mind if I put your handouts on the dais for uh transparency for the public that came? So people can know what we got in these packets.
Sure.
Cool. It will be available.
I think for me to answer that question, Bob, would be the communication and listening, just sitting down with you, having good, honest meetings and listening where you think we need to make some changes, and then, communicating back where I think we need to make some changes. And yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting together and getting on the same page.
Thank you. One of the things we would always talk about in terms of the role with the superintendent school board relationship was the landmines. And it was, let's make sure that as we walk together, that we identify those landmines for each other. If we know where they are, and explain the history, explain the background, and then also very much the no surprises rule. That if you're in Country Market walking around and someone asks you something about the city, you hopefully will already have heard it from me. Rather than hearing it from a citizen, and vice versa, so that that communication's there for us, so that myself and the staff can respond to those same situations without being caught by surprise.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So Will, how much time, because I know we're set at a certain time for the next, so 8 minutes till the next interview. All right, well, we'll still hold so it's on the same time frame, just because it was publicized for that, so thank you.
Still on the committee, but I'm not sure. I'm just gonna tell you a secret, so we didn't. It is. And we're well programmed, so.
If you. I'll text myself. That was devastating. And they were young kids. Well, maybe not you. I knew about the son of the teacher. Stations down, went live and out, I was told my people, so not to see. Door, I was, I could still there a lot, which doesn't mean anything. So I don't know what he was thinking.
We need to be about times, we're about the same as the. I used to be a long distance, so.
No, I. They said, you know, they are.
Yeah.
I know they are. That's right. Yeah. So.
There's that, there's interesting. She's right for the more people.
Why?
He works, so he must have got that.
Was it a Thursday?
Yeah.
So. You don't know. Yeah, yeah. Good to see you.
Oh, my God. That's his boyfriend.
That's it. It's not just. So. He was a.
The big, yeah, the big mushrooms.
There was some chatter. I was like, oh, come on. I said, okay, well, we were indoors. Oh, that's.
I think you're not so like this and they do have the last one.
I do know, okay, because started school in the quarter sign. His son, my son, was son your age. So they were a couple of years in class her. And so I got to really know why I was getting. Yeah, so.
She seems fast, but she had a solid waste management. So I volunteered. Something downstairs, indoors. Yes, so I was just like,
side by side, but so that's what I do. It's very approachable. Yes. That's true. Your point was total. Yeah, just gonna say the big word.
Really gonna interview it, too. I've got another meeting. to go to, so I don't know. Where's it from?
And it's all.
So you interviewed on Zoom.
Alec.
Oh.
That's Alec for sure. And I.
All right. Okay, we are ready now for our last interview. And Jay is on Zoom. We can see you. And I'm very sorry, I don't want to mispronounce your last name. Can you tell us your full name?
Sure, it's Jay Good Show, just like good show.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I always had my maiden name slaughtered all the time, so I don't like to mispronounce other people's last
Yeah,
names.
you get
So
used to
I'm
it
Mayor
after this
Heath.
many years.
I'm Mayor Heath, and we are going to be going through and introducing ourselves as we ask you questions, okay?
That's fine.
Welcome, and thank you for being willing to interview today. We greatly appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome.
Hi, Jay. This is Chip Moore. We are operating under a 700 to 800,000 shortfall. In your first 90 days, what specific steps would you take with the finance department to confirm that number fund by fund and bring the commission a rank list of expenditures, cuts, revenue option, and reserve use with service impact and timetable?
Okay, well, I don't believe I've experienced that much of a shortfall or anything in my previous assignments. So one of the things that I typically do as an interim is to meet with department heads and council members to kind of understand what the hot button issues are. So in this particular case, I would also be looking at, what's try to understand, I guess, where the shortfall comes from, I should say, and make sure I'm meeting with the treasurer and those that are responsible for organizing the budget and try to understand where that shortfall comes from. If it's a strictly a tax revenue thing, or if it's if it's something else, that we've not been following our own budget, that's been approved by council. So I guess, meeting, just from my experience, I would, mostly rely on the finance department to provide some insight on that for me.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. We appreciate that.
Sure.
My name's Matt Schwartz. If you could describe your local government leadership experience, including the size and types of organizations you have led and the number of employees you have supervised.
Sure. Most of my experiences you can see from my resume, I think, that was posted on the MML website. I've addressed mostly smaller municipalities have been my experience. I've been around larger municipalities. I worked for the state of Michigan for nearly 32 years, not in this particular type of a capacity, but the last 26 of those was in Lenawee County, right there in Adrian. So I've had experience in that regard. I've also, in my last full-time assignment as the village manager in Brooklyn, had a close association with many other of the surrounding municipalities, townships, a few villages, and also the city of Jackson. So we had some association there with the city of Jackson. So my my initial experience, you mentioned what kind of experience I have. Um, while living in Blissfield, I first became interested, I should say, in local government when I was appointed to the Planning Commission in Blissfield. And so I was a planning commissioner for 3 years, two of which was as chairperson, during which time we did an update of our master plan. And then subsequent to that, I was elected to village council, served as a trustee on village council for 2 years, and then was elected as village president and served as village president for not quite 6 years anyway, two different terms there. So that kind of um, uh, I guess got me interested in more in local government. Having worked for state government, it was apparent to me that local government is kind of where the rubber hits the road. So that was the impetus behind going back to school and getting my master's in public administration. And then my goal, my objective was when I retired from state government was to look at being a manager in local government. And so I did that, started in 2012 in Stevensville, which is a small municipality village of about 1,600. We had just two two employees in the office. We did have two other employees in our DPW, so very small government there. I went from there to New Buffalo as the assistant manager initially, and then was appointed as the acting city manager for a period of about 8 months. We had, well, I want to say a couple of dozen employees. I don't recall the exact number there. We had a police department and fire department, as well as DPW and other departments. I think there were 6 or 8 in our office there, and then went to from New Buffalo went to the village of Brooklyn. I was there for somewhat more than 7 years. We had I think 6 or 7 DPW employees. We had a clerk treasurer in the office. We did have a part-time treasurer as well. Anyway, so a very small office. Um, when I essentially retired from the village of Brooklyn, I put my name on the list to be interim managers, and that's obviously where I got my name for this particular occasion. So I was the interim manager for about 5 months in the village of Shelby. Shelby was, I think, a community of less than 1,500. And I was the interim city manager for the city of Wayland for a period of about 4 months. Wayland is approximately 4,500 population. I don't remember how many employees we had. There was, they had a full fire department, full-time fire department, police department, DPW, and other departments. So several dozen employees there. And then last, I was the interim village manager in Elk Rapids. Again, relatively small community. We did have we worked closely with the township. In fact, shared the same office space with the with the township. Township had a police department, or I'm sorry, they had a fire department. The village had the police department. So relatively small office. So I think what you were interested in is if I have been a manager or administrator in a city the size of Adrian, and the answer is no, I've not. I've specialized more in smaller communities, but did have quite a quite a vast collaboration with all of the surrounding communities, townships, and what have you, wherever I've worked both as a permanent manager as well as an interim manager.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Aaron Cheshire. When entering a new municipality, how do you quickly assess staffing needs, operations, and major priorities? And what information do you want to see first?
Well, as I said, one of the things that I typically do is meet early on with department heads and with council members to see what are some of the critical issues there. Um, Historically, I have not. I've tried to avoid making any broad sweeping changes as an interim manager. Um, I usually try to obviously if there's critical issues that need to be addressed, I do address those, but try not to make any broad sweeping personnel changes because I think my role as an interim manager is generally to try to help assist the community in making that transition from the previous full-time manager, or in this case, um, your administrator, to the next one. So, obviously, if there's vacancies that need to be addressed, we obviously would address those. But other than that, try not to make any broad sweeping changes that the next administrator may not necessarily support or agree with.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mayor Heath. Please describe your sorry about that, I switched questions, I forgot. You're stepping into a temporary role with a limited 6 to 9 month time frame. What do you believe the role of acting administrator should be? Specifically, what would you prioritize and what would you deliberately leave for the permanent administrator?
Well, we've touched on it, I think, to some extent, that I strongly believe in meeting with council members as well as department heads, so I understand what some of the critical issues are that need to be addressed during my role as an interim administrator. Um, can I ask you to repeat your question? I'm sorry. I need to make sure I'm
Yes.
staying on
What do you
target.
believe the role of acting administrator should be and what would you prioritize and what would you deliberately leave for the permanent administrator?
Right. Okay. So as I said, I think my role as interim, and it has been in the past, is just to try to help groom the community, to be prepared for the next administrator. In some of the communities, I have worked with council members in the community to some extent in trying to understand what they're looking for in the next administration. In some cases, there's been turnover, previous to my being there as the interim. And anytime there's turnover, there's a certain amount of turmoil that goes along with that, not just for the community, but also for your other employees and departments. So that's where when I say grooming, that's what I'm talking about is trying to understand just, if there's been some deficits in the past, understanding that and looking at what we can do to work together so that you're able to attract good candidates for the permanent administrator role, as well as to help the next administrator be successful. Anytime there's turnover, and you're experiencing that right now, of course, there's a certain amount of of a deficit that occurs just because of that. There's a certain amount of anxiety, I think, for employees not to, not knowing necessarily what's coming next, who they're going to get, for the next administrator. So trying to work through that. For the community, as far as the community is concerned, I have always uh, tried to keep what I call an open door policy. In most cases, that took that literally, where I did not close the door to my office. People were welcome generally to come in and see me when they had questions. And I think that's still important, regardless of the size of the community. It's a little more challenging with a larger community because obviously have to have we have to be able to get our work done. So we may have to look at scheduling appointments as opposed to people just walking in. But I think it's very important to maintain that for the community, that accessibility for the community in general.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good evening, Jay, and thank you for interviewing tonight. How would you establish an effective working relationship with a city commission that may have differing priorities, personalities, and expectations? How would you handle a situation in which individual commissioners give you conflicting direction?
Well, I think as I've said already, meeting individually with council members is extremely important. I don't. You, you want to be able to understand, I guess, what brought them to to village government or city government in this case in the first place, and what was their interest in some cases, council members become interested because of a particular what I call a hot button issue, and I need to understand those issues. Commissioners need to understand that they need to represent the entire city, and decisions that are made by council need to be considered collectively, even if they voted a different way than the majority on council. Then those decisions, it's really important that those decisions need to be supported by the entire council, even if there were individual commissioners that didn't necessarily agree with that. So I think it's really important to understand where they're coming from, what was their impetus in being an elected official. But I think they also need to understand that we have to look at the entire picture, what's best for the community. One of the things that I've done in my history is I tell, and I've told this to our previous commissions and council members, I try to treat this community as if it's the center of the universe. Now, obviously it's not the center of the universe when if you consider that, but that's what people want to understand, is that they're going to get my full attention. The community is going to get my full attention. Elected officials are going to get my full attention. Department heads are going to get my full attention. This is what's important right now. Even as an interim where I'm only going to be here for a relatively short period of time. It's really important that I understand where they're coming from, but they need to understand what their responsibility is for the entire community.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jay. Tiffany Vike. Thank you for joining us tonight. My question is, an acting administrator often inherits a staff who may be uncertain about the future. How would you build trust, maintain morale, and establish accountability through leadership in a short amount of time?
Okay. I've had really good, working relationships with my staff historically, no matter whether it was, my permanent manager position or as an interim. And part of that just comes from having, very honest and very honest communication. And just like I said, keeping that open door, even that open door policy. And just as an illustration, I'm not going to mention the specific municipality, but one of my interim assignments The previous manager rarely stepped foot outside of the office, of his office, I should say. And so there were some um, with a lot of tension, I want to say, between employees, a lot of unresolved issues that when I first arrived there. So by meeting with staff and hearing what some of those issues were and making myself available, and in this particular case, stepping outside of the door to my office. To understand, what those issues are was very important. And I think it had a really good um, impact when it came to preparing the office staff in that case for the next manager, the permanent manager that came in after my interim assignment was done. So I think that was really important, was being able to show employees that I was listening and I was willing to take action. And there were some specific things that did have to happen in that particular case too. Just because of, like I said, the kind of the negligence on the part of the manager that was there, who just declined to step foot out of his office.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Do you manage more hands-on or by setting goals and holding department heads accountable? Give an example from a city or a similar organization.
Well, I, I don't micromanage. I think that's kind of the flip side to this conversation. I do trust that my department heads were hired uh, for a reason, that they have the skills and experience and education, whatever is necessary, to be able to manage those departments. That's not to say that I won't address, issues that may arise for one reason or another. If they have some, whether it's personnel issues or what have you, so I will address that. But I think it's important to convey to department heads that they are, I would consider them, especially early on, the experts for their particular departments. So again, I I've never micromanaged. I think that communication is extremely important, and that communication, of course, goes both ways. I think it's important to meet with whether I don't know, department heads. In my assignment with Elk Rapids in particular, we had regular scheduled department head meetings, and I think that was important. It was something that hadn't happened on a regular basis before that. And so the department heads really appreciated being able to even, to meet as a group like that. Um, so I think that communication is probably the most critical thing right there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This is a multi-part question. I'll repeat anything you need. So it is, tell us about a difficult or controversial or high profile issue you inherited as a manager. How did you assess the situation, communicate with elected officials and the public, and move the issue toward resolution?
Well, I have to think about that a little bit. The I don't like to talk about specific municipalities, but just to let you know, probably the most controversial, situation that I had experienced was when I was hired by the city of New Buffalo as the assistant manager. I was there only about 4 months, I think, when the city council made a very controversial decision. It was a split decision to fire the city manager. And so then what ended up happening is the council at the same meeting, they fired the manager, they appointed me the acting city manager. And I was the acting city manager then for 8 months after that. And because it was a split decision in the first place to fire the manager, there was just a lot of angst between council members and the community in general. The community was divided as well. Um, we it was a very tense period of time. It was kind of unusual that I would even be the acting city manager for a period of 8 months. I guided the council through the process of preparing to hire the next permanent city manager. There was a period of time when I thought I might be a candidate for that position, and I couldn't tell you exactly at what point it became apparent that that wasn't going to happen, that I was going to be looking elsewhere if I wanted to be, a city manager or a village manager again. So but because it was such the way that the council went about terminating the previous manager, there was just a lot of issues that had to be addressed. I made a decision to contact the Michigan Municipal League to um, see if who they had that was available that could guide the council through the manager selection process. And part of what I was hoping for and what did happen is that the person that was then contracted through MML spent a good amount of time working with that council, both as individuals and as a group, to work through some of the issues so that they could make a good selection for the next city manager. Anyway, that was kind of a calculated thing on my part because I had experienced the Michigan Municipal Leagues, their whole search process and what they've gone through in previous communities. Um, and in this particular case, the person that was assigned, I guess I want to say, for lack of a better term, did a really good job. She understood very well, just how controversial this whole thing was, and did a very structured process with that council so that they could make a good selection, which they did. Any rate, so I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure if there's, you said it was multi-part. I just want to make sure I covered everything. So,
I think we're pretty good.
okay. Yeah. And I mean, that might not seem like a big issue, that I've had to address. That's probably the most controversial thing that I've dealt with. In my last assignment as in a full-time position in the village of Brooklyn, I had an issue that came up with one of our department heads that I did have to address. That was right at the same, just prior to my planned um, retirement. I want to say I didn't qualify for retirement, but that was what I call it. I had planned to not work full time after that particular time, so I had to address an issue with that department head and actually replace the department head with council's approval. So but I still consider that particular issue a lot less controversial than what I experienced in New Buffalo. Right.
We have, sorry, we only have 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure, are there any questions that you have for us?
Not that I can think of other than just, what's next in the process. realize you probably, have other candidates that you're going to need to discuss, I guess. Just kind of want to get a little bit of a timeline on when this might occur.
We're going to have a discussion tonight. There is a resolution to appoint an acting city administrator on here. It may or may not happen. It may go to a second round of interviews. We're not really sure. We're going to have this discussion right after this, and then we'll know more where it's headed after this. But we are, obviously trying to fill this position rather quickly. But we don't know what that process looks like until after we have a discussion here from finishing up with all of the interviews.
Sure. Just to let you know too, and I don't know how this compares to the other potential candidates, but the way that I have handled the relationship between the municipalities that I've worked for as an interim administrator or manager has been on a contractual basis. So in this particular case, I would also offer that same thing. I would be an independent contractor, not an employee of the city of Adrian. It's a little bit of a different relationship. It actually simplifies things for the municipality because I'm not enrolling in any benefit programs. You're not having to worry about withholding, unemployment, any of those kinds of things. Those are all handled because of it being a contractual relationship. So for what it's worth, I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us tonight.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we are going to move on to discussion items, which is acting administrator position candidates.
Mayor, can we have a 5-minute break?
We sure can. So we're going to do a 5-minute break and then we will come back and have that discussion.
How might get your everybody's been done?
Yeah.
Right.
It's so funny.
I put out 20 flyers.
You're so funny.
Once a month, that's enough.
No, you're not. You're fine. Oh.
She's the big one of me. So weird to me now. I saw some pretty, yeah, it was. Yeah. Oh my God. We're still waiting for the pictures. Oh, we should I'm excited. Yeah, she got married. Oh, okay. So. Okay, we got. So things are just kind of stuff you shop. They go and they got they actually just they have all the brothers. Sister so they're visiting actually this one and then they're gonna go. stressful industry when, you know, like, they're trying to keep, like, oh, it's so it was nice then. Okay. She was. I was like, I remember really going to see the yeah. She really, she was that. Doing other stuff. And she's doing other stuff. And so it just was. So I haven't scheduled. That's a great after school for your leaving school early. Hey, Christy, how are you doing? I snuck in during office, so. And then I realized it was too great for the cameras. Alright. I was like, maybe I'll. I understand. He's gonna be looking at. Oh, I really am. That's true. Sorry. So.
All right. Ooh, that was really loud. Sorry. All right. We are going to resume our meeting. And so we're going to go to discussion items, acting administrator position candidate discussion. Doesn't matter who goes. Don't all speak at once.
I really liked Ted and I really liked Bob. I guess succinctly where I'm at, I liked and would like to have time to read through Bob's 120-day plan that he gave us. But I almost would like to ask Ted if he could come back for a second interview and bring something similar just to kind of compare and contrast. That's just real quick where I'm at.
Would he have to come back or could he just email it?
I guess he could email it to us. That would be fine.
I would support that. I think that those two, I was impressed with them the most. I liked what they had to say and, you know, their answers to a couple of the specific questions that I think were thoroughly answered more than in general any other interviews that we've had during this whole process. And I also liked the distinct similarities between what the first two interviewers or interviewees had to Adrian, the population size or like the budget size or, things like that. So I would support asking to have a plan like Commissioners like had asked.
I like Ted from the background that he's been through this before. He's a banker. He understands finance, and that's our number one need in this city is to balance the budget. So I would think Ted, to me, is the right choice.
I'm fine with Ted or Bob. I believe that unfortunately, Mr. Goodshow is he just doesn't quite have the city experience. He's dealt with villages and not our size. I think he'd be fine, but he's not really what we need right now when we have other options. I see positives for Ted and positives for Bob. I'm probably 50-50 on both of them right now. I could be swayed one way or the other. I'm not real sure.
Mayor, I'm just curious because I'm new to the commission. Can maybe Commissioner Roberts or the mayor can ask, what has Bob done over the last 3 years to improve the efficiency of City Hall?
That's not the job of a commissioner. So you can't compare that. I would think that that's the answer wouldn't be something that could correlate to this job since he's only one vote on here. And it's a completely different role as administrator.
Well, I understand that, but we set policy, don't we?
Yes, but his vote is only one vote and he can't necessarily go out and make sure all the other commissioners feel the same way to set a policy that would make City Hall change.
Okay, my example would be, since he was the super of the Adrian Public School System, I'm sure he had to deal with a employee handbook. And I notice in his briefing paper, we're still dealing with a 1986 employee handbook. And I just think that since he was dealing, I'm sure, with the newer employee handbook, that the curiosity of just asking questions about improving our current city handbook since 1986, to me, brings up a question.
I thought about the employee handbook last time, and many of you remember Al Smith as our city administrator, and he was our city administrator twice, and Dane Nelson was our city administrator since 1986. And it was not a priority for them, so I'm not sure the city handbook is a priority. If it's not been a priority for other long-term city administrators, it's my point of view. It hasn't been a priority. It's something that's important, yes, but I just don't know that it's a priority for me. I did like that Ted came in at Eastlake, Ohio, and they were in a deficit, and he did the review and righted the ship under direction. So that's a really important thing. But also speaking to that, I'm curious that I know we will be paying a contract for this person. And we are, if we go with Ted, housing, meals, how does?
I asked Heather that question actually this week, how that would work. And she said typically what happens is that, that there is like a housing allowance that's part, but it can be part of that contract. Like you can say, we're going to give you this amount because this is what we've paid. a former city administrator, and then you can take part of that for housing, or it's something that can be worked out in the contract details. Sometimes they take a lower amount and they get the housing instead. You know what I'm saying? Like there's different scenarios to that, but I did ask that, and she said that yes, most times that they will ask for at least something set aside for housing, and that's how that they, but she didn't know what, well, who would request what if that would be the case.
I just don't, I know we've talked about a certain amount for the city administrator contract. If we have to also pay for housing, how much more is that going to hurt our budget?
And that was my concern. And that's why I think that that's something we need to address if, and that might possibly be a good question if we do a second interview, or a question at least, maybe even if we don't do a second interview, if we're waiting for this, paperwork from Ted, maybe we say, pose that question, like, are you expecting an added
Right.
housing on top of the salary?
Mhm.
Based on the distance, I'm assuming from East Lake, Ohio, which is what, about 2.5 hours away, 2 hours, 40 minutes away. I would assume he would have.
He plans to live here from what he said to me,
Okay.
if he got it, the way he made that sound, and he's done that before. And he said that he would go back on weekends at another job that he had. And he said that, if, sometimes if it dictated he needed to stay for the weekend, he just wouldn't go home for a couple of weeks, that he's done that before. So I just took that assumption off of him saying that he's done that before, that makes me think that would be his plan.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if he was gonna like rent or something like that up here or somewhere, so you would have easier access to the city.
I did like how Bob answered my question about there would be better communication before our meetings and before something comes up for a vote, so that there aren't, not to say that there aren't a ton of questions, because we want there to be discussion up here. But if there's some reason that there could be an off the rails discussion, I think that he understands that communication to the body up here is, before the meeting, is important. And I really liked that answer.
I I will tell you, I have given it a lot of thought, even heading into this, since the last public comment, and hearing people's thoughts on the fact that that Bob was elected, and this would be an appointed, if he does get the administrator, then we'd be appointing somebody to that seat when he was elected into that commission seat. I still don't know how I feel about that, but I definitely have given it a lot of thought. That is a concern. I'm not gonna lie, that's a concern of mine. I'm not saying it would keep me from saying Bob can't be here, because I also was going to say that, Ted and Bob definitely both, and I wanted also time. So thank you, Commissioner Zeig. I was saying the same thing, that I wanted time to digest this, and it would be nice to get something to compare with Ted. I will say that I think Commissioner Ranke has done a really great job as a city commissioner. So I'm also very hesitant to want to see that seat vacated by him. I think he's done really well with that, and he's so good with communicating with the public, and he's so good in so many different capacities and bringing things to light, and the knowledge he brings, that I'm 50-50 as well. I'm really caught, I guess is the right word, but I really liked the one thing is that Ted stood out more to me, was that, he has experience with municipalities our size. I think Commissioner Cheshire said that. And what he did, also to echo what Commissioner Roberts said, I had written down notes that what he did with East Lake, and that experience with that deficit in the budget was very big to me. I wrote down some four words that I just came to mind when Ted was interviewing. Experience, attitude, approach, and dedication. And I really saw that come out in things that he said tonight during the interview. But I also will say, I think Bob has a lot of, of those same qualities. It's just, it's in a different experience realm. That doesn't always mean it's right or wrong, but it's definitely not in that municipality realm. And that can be a whole different area. And the other thing I'm caught on, and I'm always caught on this, even when we've done regular city administrator searches, not just interim, is it better to have somebody that has knowledge of everything happening here and is local and has that background, or is it better for somebody new to come in that can really look at it with a fresh look and a fresh perspective? And, which one's better? And it's really hard to know which one is better in that scenario. And that's where I always, feel a little bit caught. And really honestly, no matter what direction we go, half of the public is not going to be happy with our decision, and half is going to be happy with our decision. We're not going to be able to please them. So and that is because no matter what decision we make, that is the reality. There's always going to be somebody unhappy, but I would like a little more time just to still weigh out that familiarity and that fresh perspective and which one, but I also partly just because of what Bob gave us, I really would like to look at it. My brief overview of it, when I looked at it, it looks like a really great plan, but some of it looks like a really great plan for the city commission. I don't know if it's necessarily, but I'm telling you, I just looked at it really fast. Is it a really great plan as city administrator, or is it a really great direction? And he could give us that sitting with us and helping guide us as a fellow city commissioner. I don't know. And I really briefly looked at it because I didn't want to be looking at that instead of concentrating on what he was saying. But those are just my thoughts. I really, I feel very caught right now with these two choices because they're very different in a good way, like, and one brings one and one brings the other. But the one thing that definitely is weighing on me is just that open seat and what he's brought to this commission. And I'm not sure how I feel about opening up that seat and then appointing, because it has turned out well in the past when we've appointed. I feel like we've appointed, like at least in the last scenario when we appointed Commissioner Castleberry, that was great. That was a great appointment. But it's just hard because now the public doesn't get a voice for who is sitting in that other seat. And if it's a 4-3 vote and it's that person that got appointed as opposed to the person that got elected that is swaying that 4-3, that can always be an issue in itself. So these are all things to think about.
I would like to just discuss process. I've heard, I think I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, several people said it's 50-50 and they are unsure. I don't know who to vote for. They each have things. If we have a second interview, what's going to be different at a second interview? Are we going to let a whole new set of questions? Commissioner Roberts, I believe, and correct me, you're not going to be here next week?
I will not. But I had this discussion with my husband, I think. I can't remember who I had this discussion with. Here, I trust you guys to, and if I can't be here next week and you want to do a second interview, I trust you to make the right decision. I do. I trust you to do that. And so if you would like a second interview next week, go ahead. It's okay.
And the problem I have, and I'm glad you say you trust us. The problem I have with that is now we've got 5 people.
I understand.
No, I'm not saying you didn't know that. I'm just saying now we're down to 5. We waited for Chip to get back to have an interview. I think it's important because what I heard clearly at the last meeting, it's up to this commission to make the decision. And so when we make that decision, we have to look into what Madam Mayor has brought up. If we do this, what are the implications and ramifications? If we do that, what are the positives and what are the negatives? So that has to be thoroughly thought out and discussed. And I don't think just getting a piece of paper back, similar to what Commissioner Branke brought us, is going to lead us in a direction to pick somebody. I think if people are really saying they're 50-50, I think we need to do a new set of questions. I think that the questions could be more direct, and I would hope people would actually turn them in this time instead of not submitting questions, because I think that's very valid. And I hope that we can then decide, and maybe we could get a clearer picture. I mean, we talked about last time, people in the public said, we need a second interview. People in the public said at the last meeting, we don't want the commissioner taken out of the commission seat. We don't want that to happen. So we have to really look at things. And I'm not a person to say what everybody else should do. My opinion is we have information here with us. It seems to me there's two choices on this commission, but we know what communities have said. And I agree, 50% of the calls are going to like us and 50% of the calls are going to think we, of course, did the dumbest thing ever again. But it's our job to make a decision. And whether it takes a week or 2 weeks, and I hate poor Will, but I wanted to make a big, thorough, decision and go from there.
Well, and part of that too, what you just brought up is, I can't remember the exact process, and maybe Bert could help me on this one, but, I know that if we were to, choose Commissioner Banky and that seat is, opened, there's a whole process to that, and there's got to be an application time for those that want to be appointed. So that seat could sit empty for a while, and that is something else that's been weighing on my mind. Like, are there going to be things coming forth? And now we have that possibility of a 3-3 vote where something dies. I mean, there's always that possibility. I mean, I know that could happen if somebody was gone on a night of a commission meeting as well, but that takes a while. I remember that being that whole process, and it took us a while to do all those, interviews for those that wanted to be appointed, and then making that decision and doing that as well. I'm not saying that means I don't want to keep considering Bob. I'm just saying that's something to keep in your mind, in the back of your mind as well.
I guess the thing that stood out to me the most when Bob was interviewing was his reference to the Vertex study and how we need structural changes in order to be attractive in the future to city administrators. Is that something maybe we can, I don't know, move? Because this seat being open is very concerning, and that's going to delay us even further. And I've heard many complaints from the public about that possibility. I get it. That is completely valid. Is it something that we can have, if we were to hire Ted, focus on using that Vertex study kind of to base his interim position off of and to work through? And I mean, have check-ins with us and kind of go off of maybe Bob's plan. Like, again, I did not have time to read through his plan while he was speaking because I can't do that and also listen. But maybe can we blend the two and keep Bob as a commissioner and kind of use his 120-day plan, bits and pieces of it with Ted? Because I do agree with Commissioner Moore, his financial background is very appealing. And I appreciated the reference to the Vertex study and how we need to make ourselves marketable in the future. And that's what this position should be doing for us, is to keep projects running, keep things afloat, and also to make us marketable in the future for somebody permanent.
I really liked his answer with that. My job here is to make this job easy for the person coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't hesitant. I'll make decisions. And I haven't, and he talked about finance, which I think is very important. So If we were going to rank them, I would rate Ted as my number one candidate, Bob as my number two candidate. The housing thing, I think we just offer a contract. If you want to take this job, here's what we're going to offer. And you take it or you don't. And the other thing I think we need to honor Commissioner Morse is by the time we decide what we're going to do, get this person vetted. Because I don't want to say we're going to hire somebody until we're vetted and know what we're getting.
And that's why I'm wondering if we should, I know you just said, Commissioner Schwartz, sorry for Will for taking a little bit longer, but I wonder if we should take the time to go ahead and do that, but also to, that could be one of the questions to Ted, like, are you willing to take this if, it doesn't include extra money for housing? I don't know if we're allowed to do that until we offer the job. I don't know, and Heather's not here, so I wouldn't know if that's even something we could do, and I don't know if Burke would know, but and maybe the way, to it, at least to say, like, what would your timeline be? Or what would your 120-day plan be? At least, give Ted that option as well to present that.
And is this something that I know I'm the one who suggested maybe a second interview, but is that something that we need to reconvene to have a second interview? Or is this just kind of a follow-up question that we could have him email his answers to about the contract?
I think it's a little unfair to Ted to have him create this 120-day plan because he doesn't know the city of Adrian and he doesn't know the concerns. Obviously, Bob knows the concerns. So I think we would be doing a disservice to him to have to create the same plan.
That's valid.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. And Bert, can you speak to if we were to, I'm not saying it'd be tonight or whatever, but if we were to go with Commissioner Banky for that, with Bob for that position, I think it's a little bit different of a situation for when he could begin, if that was the case. Can you just go over that so everybody is aware?
The charter, so you'd have to deal with a resignation if you picked Bob. So a resignation must be in writing. It must go to the clerk. Once it goes to the clerk, then it has to be acted on at the next regularly scheduled meeting. So for example, if tonight you decided to pick Bob could start September 7th. He can't start. Is that Labor Day?
Our meeting's on the 8th because of Labor Day. Yeah.
Yeah, so September 8th, he couldn't start, you couldn't accept his resignation until that regularly scheduled meeting. So anytime, if you extend this out, I don't know what you're thinking, but however long you extend it out, if you pick him, you still have to go to a regularly scheduled meeting because the resignation has to be in writing and it has to go to the clerk before it can go to you.
And can you walk us through the process for if that were to happen of appointing, just so that everybody in the public is aware as well?
If you
And our
have
new
a
commissioners?
vacancy in office, then I believe you have to appoint within 60 days. It's also in the charter, section 5.6. So you have to appoint within 60. Well, first of all, you have to decide at the next meeting whether you want to have a special election. And a special election is defined in the charter, and I can't recite it to you, but it's basically May. It would be that'd be the closest one. And if you don't have something else going on, then the city would have to pay for that election, which is quite expensive. So otherwise, you're waiting until either August or November. Or you have to decide whether you want to appoint someone. And if you want to appoint, you have to appoint within 60 days of the vacancy. So if we use September 8th, you would have 60 days from September 8th to appoint to fill the seat.
I just wanted to make sure that we knew, because I didn't actually know that process as well myself on the resignation and all that. So I just wanted to make sure we all knew that. If, so we don't have a regularly scheduled, we don't have a regular meeting. There's 5 Mondays in August. That was the point of my story. So, I don't know. Is it something where we want to like reconvene on August 31st, which is a Monday? And is it a second round of interview with new questions and, more specific questions? Or I don't know, where do we want to go from here? I'm throwing it out there.
I don't need another meeting or another round of questions. I think Ted's my number one choice and Bob's my number two. Because of his financial background, he's been through this, and we need a financial guy to guide us.
I would say that my number one is Mr. Banky and my number two is Mr. Andretsky. For this 120-day vision plan just outlines all of the work that the city staff isn't going to have to catch somebody up on. I mean, he knows the city and he has a specific plan given to us on a silver platter. Not only that, his financial background, he had almost a larger budget to manage than the city does, and continue to maintain that strength for APS. Not only that, the thing that I thought was important was in this 120-day plan, his build commission capacity and a stronger governance culture. He immediately puts in there to engage the MML and provide commission training focused specifically on elected officials and effective governance. In it, he has a quote that says, "The objective is not to eliminate disagreement, it is to build the capacity to disagree and still govern effectively for the common good." That's a big thing that the commission keeps hearing, is that we're not effective and that we can't collaborate, or that our communication isn't great. And throughout this whole 120-day plan, he just maps out how we can do this and how he can attempt to guide us there with the MML's help, or with the networks that he already has built here in Adrian. That would take a lot of work immediately off of the department heads and the rest of the city staff, and that is something that they need so they can continue to perform well for the residents. So I would say strong advocate for Mr. Banky, with second being Mr. Andretsky.
And to be perfectly transparent, people have told me that it shows that Commissioner Banky and I don't get along. And that's out there, and that's okay. That people can have that. I have my reasons, he has his reasons, and that's fine. But my decision will not be based on my relationship with anybody. My decision will be what's best for the city of Adrian. So I want to make that perfectly clear. My decision is not for me. It's not for anything in my personal agenda. My decision will be for the best move forward for the city of Adrian. And I think it's our responsibility that we get this process started and we get it moving and we get it done and we get things working towards success instead of chaos.
I would say after tonight's discussion, I'm leaning probably more towards Ted. I would just say that would respect the public's decision to elect Commissioner Banky up here and leave him in that seat. And I think we could take some of what he had given us and use that moving forward, because it does look like, preliminarily glancing at it, that there are some great ideas in there to help us be more effective as a commission. But I think having two good candidates is something that we should rejoice about. And I think that Ted might be our best choice moving forward.
And that's, I mean, I said I was 50-50, but I mean, I was I gave you all those things about Ted that I thought he did really well with. My, my thing is, I think Bob can actually make a better influence being in the commission seat. I do really honestly feel that. I feel like he challenges us in a good way as the commission. Like he's always looking at these things and coming up, and he's really big on the strategic plan. And I feel he can be more instrumental as a commissioner. And that's why I've been really caught, because I just really hate to give up that voice and that knowledge in that commissioner seat. Because I feel like you're a little more constricted when you're in the city administrator seat, because now we're the bosses of that person. And that's why I feel like it is more constricting for that person. And I feel, like I said, he's doing such a great job, especially with the community, meeting with the community and being a voice for them. And he does challenge us, and we need to be challenged. And he's very intelligent, and he finds things and comes and brings them and challenges us in the way that I think we need to be challenged. So, I mean, I would say I am leading to Ted as well.
Is it appropriate to have a motion and a vote?
Yeah. All right, so we're going to move on to resolutions. Resolution R26-070 is from the City Commission. It is a resolution to appoint an acting city administrator. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution, and you must name the person in the resolution.
I would move to appoint Ted as our acting interim city administrator.
Only if you can pronounce his last name.
I have it written down, guys.
I'm so glad I don't have to do the motion for that exact reason.
Andrzejewski.
I'll second.
Andrzejewski.
Is there any more discussion or questions?
I think my only discussion point was that I would caution any more work that is going to be put on the department heads and on the city employees because of the amount of understanding they're going to have to give someone who is not from here. I think that it's a very big opportunity that we could propel the city at City Hall and all of the people who have been taking on so much extra work for so long into not only, surviving all the tasks we give them, but thriving with their departments into performance as a standard that they would want to keep. So I just caution not having someone who, again, knows the city so well that he did provide this. And now I feel that that can be a setback that it's not going to be us that deals with that setback. It's going to continuously be the department heads.
Can I say something? We've
Nope.
hired in our city.
Nope.
We've hired in our city someone with no experience and it didn't work out to our benefit.
I had a response to you. My mind went blank. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just,
It's something I was going to say something though to Commissioner Treasurer on that, but I forgot now. Sorry.
I was just looking to hear the vote if we're gonna vote.
And I will say, even though I was giving everything a lot of thought, obviously I knew more about Bob Benke because he's been sitting on the commission with us, and I knew all these things. So I was keeping a very open mind about tonight, but he was my front runner walking in here just by looking at resumes. But I feel off these interviews tonight and still considering the fact that that commission seat was going to be open, because that's what was still weighing on my mind. I was just very excited about many of the things that Ted brought, and that's why I was writing down some of those notes tonight about just the experience, the attitude, all of that, the approach, everything. I was very impressed and pleasantly surprised. So we have a motion from Commissioner Zeig with a second from Commissioner Moore. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Cheshire,
No.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Zeig.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Now it is time for public comment, and it does not have to even be something we talked about tonight, but it can be. Just to reiterate, there's a 3-minute time limit, and for the record, please state your first and last name and your place of residence. Thank you. Oh, and once we've exhausted all comment inside the chambers, we'll then open it to the Zoom participants.
Nicole Hernandez, City of Adrian. I just want to say thank you. We have already hired someone without experience to a very top position in our city, which was standing next to the city administrator, which would be the city attorney. And it did not turn out well for our city. I think that Ted was our better option. He is in finance. He has a municipal background, and we are not a school. Thank you. I appreciate your votes.
Jacob Cooper, City of Adrian resident, Mayor, Commissioners, just want to thank you guys for making the decision tonight. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Benke for putting his name in the hat. It does take a lot to put yourself out there, both on the commission as well as running for interim administrator. I do think the commission made the right decision tonight. I firmly believe that. Bob is an asset to the commission, and I think he can continue to serve the city in that regard. But I think bringing Ted in is going to be very helpful. Commissioner Cheshire, I understand your concerns about city staff and department heads. But I think the city staff is very resilient and will work through this very well. And this should be a good positive 6 to 9 months for both city staff and residents alike. Thank you.
Gail Dunaway, City of Adrian. I would also like to echo that testament. And if we need to sweeten the pie, his contract, I can throw in a Callaway 5-wood.
Good evening, James Charles, City of Adrian. I promise not to swear. I'm known for that. You guys made the right decision, I believe. I've been approached over the last few weeks on what I thought. It was a 50-50, Aaron. 50-50. 50% of the people talked to me wanted Bob to take the job. 50% said find someone else. The biggest thing is we don't want to spend any more money looking for somebody like that. If we're going to spend money, we need to spend it on somebody that's going to be here long term. We already spent the money on that. I don't think that we were represented the way we should have been by you on the second search. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Sue All's house, City of Adrian. I keep hearing at different meetings about using the MML. And I know it was brought up, Commissioner Benke brought it up in his plan, apparently, about sending new commissioners to learn about Robert's Rules of Order. I can't think of the other thing, but is that, I know you can't answer me right now, but maybe in commissioner comments, is that a cost that we can't afford right now? And I guess my second question would be, how many of the new commissioners have done that? That's all. Thank you.
We will now open it up to the Zoom participants.
Bob Benke, City of Adrian resident, here to thank you for making a decision tonight and not dragging this out any further for Ted or myself. That's much appreciated. Thank you to Mr. Cooper and the comments he made, because my role tonight was to serve the City of Adrian, whether that would be in that center chair or in the commissioner chair. And you can bet that I'm going to continue to serve just as passionately from my seat there to move us forward as a city as I can. Thanks again.
Carrie Smith, City of Adrian. I want to thank the commission tonight for making a decision, not delaying this another week. And I do want to thank Commissioner Benke for stepping up, for seeing a job that needs done and being willing to put together a very impressive and thoughtful plan on that impact. I will say, it is a little concerning to me that a tool that will be needed by the acting city administrator, the permanent city administrator, it's a 40-year-old document. And what's concerning is that Commissioner Roberts has stated it's not a priority. If something hasn't been a priority for 4 decades, I think we're seeing the fruit of that through the satisfaction of residents, the blight situation, our $500,000 deficit. All of these things trickle from this document. What is our standard of performance? What are the clearly defined roles that city employees are operating within? What is our code of ethics? How are we treating clients? What's the expectation for job performance? And how are we holding people accountable? So I do think it needs to be a priority, because your next city administrator and the interim city administrator is going to need to come in and be able to hold people accountable, find out their challenges. Commissioner Cheshire, Bob would have to sit down with each department head, because as a city commissioner, yes, you can know those challenges maybe and know the history of the city, but what role, what specific challenges are they facing in their roles? What do they need for support? What tools do they need that they don't have? What is getting in the way? A good administrator is going to come in and have those conversations with department heads to learn that. So whether it's Bob or someone totally new, I'm appreciating that this person has a strong financial background, a fresh perspective, and maybe new ideas to get things done. When we go back to the strategic plan from 2023, 2 things: further reduction of blight and a positive attitude towards city staff and city services. I think those can really change when you update that handbook and give those clear roles, expectations, and hold people accountable. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Kim Nebel, City of Adrian. I'm extremely disappointed in this decision. Once again, you've made the decision to hire from outside rather than within, and you just don't seem to grasp what that does to the morale of city employees. Having been a government employee for 31 years, I understand that very well. I noticed one of the first things in Ted's interview, if I didn't get it wrong, is it was like the second thing he went to. He talked about having to look at reducing city employees, which, if I caught that right, it's really wrong for someone who has no knowledge of the city yet to go directly there. And another thing I wanted to point out, didn't he say that his wife is working full time? And if he lives 2.5 hours away, I mean, if that was my husband, I wouldn't want him 2.5 hours away for 9 months during winter. So and Commissioner Banky, as far as intelligence, plan for moving forward, his intelligence clearly was superior to the other candidates, and he really stood out I don't want to lose him as a commissioner either, and I said that before, but really that's his choice, and I'm really, really disappointed in your decision. Thank you.
Oh, well, be disappointed.
Hearing no more public comments, are there any commissioner comments?
Madam Mayor, I would just like,
Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, I would just like to thank the commission for having an open dialogue and in public, and I appreciate that. And I think that from the last few meetings, I think that we've seen that this commission can start working together and forming goals, letting go of our own personal agendas and beliefs and working for the betterment of the city. And I really see that as a great potential and possibility that's going to happen now. I really do. I just want to thank everybody for open and honest conversations, and I look forward to Ed, because one of his things is said, he's going to call us in and talk, and he's not going to share what we say. It's going to be in his office. It's not going to be that you're going to hear it secondhand or this or that. And he's going to talk and he's going to communicate with us. And I think that's one of the things we've been missing. And it's one of the things that I think is probably the most important thing is learn how to disagree, but learn how to agree to do what's best for the common good.
I was also going to say that I thought the discussion was great tonight because, you know, it started one direction, but that's that kind of discussion as we keep talking and having that dialogue that we were able to get to a decision tonight and decide to make that decision tonight. And it necessarily didn't start that way. And that's okay, because that's why we have these discussions and we all listen to each other and take what each other is saying and apply that and come to that and formulate those decisions based off that. And I just thought that the dialogue was really great as well tonight. So I just want to echo everything that you said, Commissioner Schwartz, because I 100% agree.
I will agree with Matt, and I just got back from being up north, and what we're facing with the deficit with the marijuana money is going to affect many, many cities in the state. So we're not going to be alone what we have to do, and I just feel very comfortable with the financial guy that we hired tonight.
I'd like to address Sue, Mrs. Alsaus's MML costs and trainings. So there's a mini conference in March, and then the full conference is usually in October. And yes, there's cost to it if we have the city pay for it. I've gone to several of the conferences and trainings, and I tried to do half and half, where I pay for half of the cost for the conference and the city pays for half of it. But I'm able to do that because of my financial, where I'm at in life. The other thing is, and this is something that I want to be clear with, we have business owner, Matt's retired, working. Bob and I have been able to go to some of the water things because neither one of us are working. And when I was working full-time at Sienna, I was not able. I wasn't going, well, I shouldn't say I was not able. I would have had to have taken vacation time from work because these meetings, these conferences are during the day. They're during the week. And so I don't want to hold the commissioners that are still having full-time jobs to a different standard if they can't attend an MML meeting or training, because they may not be able to for cost or for time. It's just, I know I didn't get to go the first couple of years. I wasn't willing to give up my vacation time for that training. So.
Building off of that, to answer that further, as one of the newer commissioners sitting up here, Michelle gave us a packet, an introductory packet when we were elected into this position. And there were some Zoom calls and trainings that we were able to do. I took one last year. And it was an introductory course into you're an elected official, now what? And there were a lot of linked resources that we can refer to. So not necessarily just the in-person trainings anymore. I think it's probably a result of COVID era. But there are some Zoom opportunities. But again, they are sometimes during the weekday. The one that I was able to take was on a Saturday. So they're limited. So it just kind of depends on availability.
And just to clarify for the public, we don't know the exact start date yet for Ted because that's going to be working out the contract and details and things. So that's not something we will know the exact start date yet, but hopefully very soon. So.
Madam Mayor, are we going to leave it up to you and the city attorney to negotiate the contract, or just the city attorney?
It's the city attorney, and is Heather involved as
Yeah,
well?
the resolution.
Yeah,
It's
it's
the HR director and the city attorney.
So the public will know that too. It's
Yes,
just
yes, it's not me. Yep.
right.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, may I get a motion to adjourn?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.